Okay, so now it's on.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to the Career Upgrade channel. My name is Melanie, and I have started this channel to document my journey out of corporate and into entrepreneurship since 2009. I have been a human resources director in the community banking industry here in the DC area, and now I'm an entrepreneur. I have started TriMark Management Group LLC, a human resources consulting firm where I do some fractional HR executive work, but I get to focus on career coaching, which is the thing that I love to do most. I am so excited because today I have one of my favorite recruiters ever to work with. Jorge Ventura is here from Syntax Talent Solutions. Jorge, welcome. I'm going to
Thank,
turn it over to you. Tell us all about yourself.
thanks, Melanie. I appreciate it. So Syntax is a national staffing firm. We help clients and candidates find opportunities in the accounting, finance, HR, legal, administrative, and light industrial space. But how I got into staffing, it's funny. I started my career in public accounting. So I worked at KPMG, got my CPA, and was in audit for about 5 years. Now, what I loved about audit was going to a company that I've never heard of and helping them with their financials. But the reality is nobody sees auditors as helpers.
No.
One of my business partners now, he encouraged me to get into staffing and he positioned in the way of, if you're a nonprofit, family business, publicly traded company, if you don't have the right people in the right seats, you can't grow, you can't scale. So for me, being a part of that journey and helping my clients find those individuals really allowed me to kind of get into the space and really never leave.
Yeah. I remember when we met, I mean, years ago, years ago. And I remember you telling me that story, and I was like, that's a huge switch, right? Because when you think of people in like the accounting industry, audit, not the most, gregarious, talkative people in the world, and so you went into the talent acquisition role very easily and very naturally. And welcome. I'm so happy that you're here today. I have a series of questions that I'm going to go over with you, and let's just get started.
Let's
So
do
the
it.
first question, so the first question is, what is the biggest misconception that candidates have about recruiters?
Yeah, I think for me, it's probably that we don't have skin in the game, right? Or that we don't care about the relationship. Now, I do think that is true for bad recruiters, and I say that because they are focused on the transaction and focus on the dollars, right? The reality is we do get paid when a placement is made, but the placement needs to last at least 90 days. And even if it does last, let's say 91 days, our relationship is on the line, both from the candidate and the client perspective. So, from my perspective, I want to make sure that one, an individual who takes the job is happy, that it is beneficial for them in their career. But two, my client is happy with that hire and that the value ROI is there years down the line.
Sure, and reputational risk is a real thing. So
So true.
we all have those recruiters that we just don't want to work with anymore because we know that they really didn't care. They just wanted to put some candidates in front of us. So
Yeah.
my next question is, so you, I know for a fact, are a very responsive recruiter, but why do strong candidates sometimes not hear back after applying from other agencies?
Yeah, I think for this one is probably volume and timing. And I say this because the amount of applicants that a job posting will get can be overwhelming, right? And talent acquisition can only get through so many individuals. And from a timing perspective, sometimes a hiring manager has 2 to 3 individuals that are moving further along in the process, and they just don't want to muddy the waters or feel that they found this individual, and maybe you apply just a little bit too late, right? So now I'd say the one thing you can do is maybe be proactive and go out and maybe reach out to the hiring manager or reach out to the HR individual, maybe just to get an update. So maybe if they did miss you or overlooked your profile, you can get a second chance.
Oh yeah. I think that people miss the fact that relationship building is so incredibly important. So you can't just talk to the recruiter. You need to go ahead and reach out and talk to that employer that you
Hmm.
interviewed with and build that relationship. It's so incredibly important. My next question is, so what actually makes a candidate stand out to you?
Yeah, I think for me it's clarity and honesty, right? I think in this business, relationships are so important. So I think from a clarity perspective, can an individual talk about their experience? Can they talk about what they've done in their career? And also from an honesty perspective, talk about what they want. And there's perspective
Yeah,
to say, this is important for me from a career perspective, from a commute perspective, from a compensation perspective. So at least we have our marching orders to go out and strategize with that individual, to help them get an opportunity that's going to be hopefully life changing for them.
absolutely. And then what are the common mistakes that candidates make without realizing it?
Yeah, I think, in this AI world, resumes look the same, can be the same. I think it's just really thinking about what is the value that you brought in your previous roles and making
Yeah.
sure that that's highlighted in the resume.
Hmm.
The other two pieces probably would be being underprepared for an interview. I mean, that is huge when you're having that conversation. Something as simple as being on time or even being early and the camera working, having that information is critical going into that interview and making sure that the first impression is key. And then the third piece is probably enthusiasm. I think
Hmm.
energy is so contagious, and
Hmm.
I always think about an interview like a first date.
Yep.
And if there isn't that back and forth, if there aren't smiles, if the engagement isn't there, somebody else could beat you and move to second, to third, to final rounds, because that energy wasn't there.
Absolutely. And as we discussed earlier, if you're nervous, say that you're nervous. Like your interviewer knows when you're nervous, so just say, I'm really a little nervous. Don't just sit there and act like you're not because we can see it. So,
Yeah. Hey, I'm nervous
to make
because
sure.
I'm excited, right?
Hello. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, we're all human beings here. So,
Hmm. Hmm.
my next question is, what happens behind the scenes after someone submits an application?
Yeah, I think from a client perspective, I mean, ATS systems nowadays, they'll look at keywords and sometimes individuals can be missed, but that is that first line of defense. From a staffing perspective, we try to look at every profile, but we are extremely picky because what we can't do is send 30 profiles to our client. We can only send 3 to 5, and they have to hit the bullseye. So for us, we're looking at the resume, we're looking at the LinkedIn, and then if they meet that criteria, we're having that conversation because we want to truly understand, is it a skill set and a personality fit, for us to be able to present that individual.
Mhm. And then let's see, what should someone do differently if they're not getting any interviews? So they're applying and they're applying and but they're not getting any interviews. What should they do?
Yeah, I think this one's tough because sometimes you have to hold the mirror up. And I would say really three things. One is audit the resume. Take a
Mhm.
look at it, and is it value add that is being put in each bullet point. And if it isn't, let's remove it or let's tweak that wording. The second piece is the LinkedIn, right? Take a look at your LinkedIn because hiring managers do look at your profile.
Yeah,
So,
we do.
what picture is on there, what information is being shared, because that's important.
Mhm.
And then the third piece, I think, is, having a conversation with a recruiter, right? I think 70% of jobs that are um, filled are not posted online, right? So
Mhm.
having that conversation with them, being able to supplement your search and really strategize your career.
Absolutely. And it's like not blindly just applying to everything. Yes, you might really, really want to leave your job, or you're unemployed currently, but you still need to apply to things that fit your skill set.
Hmm.
Or you're just, you're going to drive yourself crazy and never hear back or barely hear back from any
Yeah.
employers. And then my last question is, what advice would you give someone who feels stuck in their career search?
Yeah, I would say take a look at your strategy. What roles are you applying for, and are you truly qualified? And be honest with yourself, right? And do you have 9 out of 10 of the items that are on the job description? I think a few years ago, clients were open to this 7 out of 10s. I think now, specifically in this competitive market, they want the 9 to 10 out of 10s. And if you don't, we'll look to expand your network. Look
Hmm.
to engage with individuals who maybe have the job that you want and build a rapport with them. Get get a cup of coffee, have a conversation with them to understand what they did, because sometimes, it could be taking a step back to move 2 step forwards, or maybe making a move to a lateral position, but that's going to get you that exposure instead of being a part of a massively big company, but
Hmm.
you don't get that exposure from a skill set perspective.
Hmm. Hmm. Absolutely. Totally agree with you. Um, Anything else you'd like to add before we close out today?
I think the biggest thing in the market that we sit in, looking at the macro economy, I think it couldn't be scary, the uncertainty of finding a new opportunity. But I would say look at the data. Unemployment has been 4.5%, starting since last year. So clearly companies are hiring, but we just have to be a little bit more proactive in reaching out to hiring managers, reaching out to recruiters and helping them with the resume, and leveraging their relationships, to getting you the opportunity to get a seat at the interview table and be able to show your skill sets.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for being with me today.
I appreciate the
So
time, Melanie.
absolutely. So I want everyone to take from this. Um, Jorge and I will both agree that your job search is it's strategic planning. It is strategy. It is not just going in and applying. There is a strategy behind it. If you have any questions, if you would like to know how to get in touch with Jorge or myself, all of our contact information will be in the description box below. Like, comment, subscribe, and thank you so much for joining us today. Have a good day.